So, what is it about baseball that attracted you so much? Why baseball? First of all, I mean, somehow this got into like weather and what was it, earthquake prediction and
Yeah.
poke. Well,
So a couple of reasons. One is just so this is like, 10 or 15 years ago. Back then, the other sports weren't very analytically driven, right? Now all the NBA teams have like statistical analysts, all the hockey teams have them, right?
okay.
Um, Baseball's kind of like the Moneyball era, way ahead of the curve. But also, like, I had grown up a big baseball fan. I was 6 years old when the Detroit Tigers won the World Series. I usually wearing a Tigers cap. It's lost. I'm wearing a Yankees cap today. Um, but yeah, it was just kind of like a childhood thing, and like always loving
Okay.
math and loving numbers. When I was like 11, my friend and I started playing like fantasy baseball and like would dominate the adults, right? So we started doing it for those reasons. But no, it just was like a lifelong passion, basically. I mean, right now I watch less baseball than other sports. I kind of agree with the critique that baseball has become harder to watch. Uh, Everything is a strikeout or a walk or a home run, right? There aren't as many balls in play. They're trying to fix that now,
What?
but growing up, baseball was like my favorite sport and was
Why?
the most
Why
like
is?
numbers.
Why has it become like that?
Um, I think teams have figured out that just employing like a lot of relief pitchers who throw really fast and kind of
Oh,
literally like swinging for the fences, right? So like
oh,
baseball, I mean, it's base, right? It's a game where you're on the bases and base hits, like that's fun, right? Stolen bases are fun, doubles and triples are fun, right? Home runs are fun in doses, but like it's become, I mean, people blame like quote unquote analytics for it, but it's like this is like the right strategy for the game, and like it doesn't make for a
well, yeah.
particularly attractive product, and like it's not the analytics fault. It's like, well, tweak the rules then. People are going to in any system are going to adapt to the rules and figure them out when you have a competitive market, right?
Yeah.
And baseball is making a bunch of changes now. They're implementing like a pitch clock for next year. I think most of those are positive. But yeah, people figure out like this is like the GTO strategy in baseball happens to be a like super like boring strategy.
Oh, well, that's unfortunate. I mean, it doesn't sound that boring in a sense to either go big or go home. It sounds like that's the new baseball strategy in a sense. It's kind of funny to think like either strike out completely or like hit really big. Am I reading that right? I think that's right.
I mean, look, it's not, yeah, it's like not terrible by any means, right? I mean, I'll probably go to like a couple of Mets playoffs games this weekend or something, right? I'm not like anti-baseball, but at the margin, and also there are a lot of ways to spend 3 hours these days, right? I think baseball requires like a lot of investment, as opposed to like football, where it's like, okay, 17 cold Sundays in winter you watch football for a few hours. Like that's a much lower barrier to entry than being like baseball, 162 games, deep rosters, and so forth.
Oh, okay, okay. Um, and oh yeah, one thing I have to ask, even though I'm not a baseball fan, but I have heard about this, is who's the real home run king? This guy, Aaron Judge, at 62. I believe he allegedly doesn't use steroids, or this dude Barry Bonds, who did use steroids at 73. And I know you wrote an article about him about it's actually something more than just a master. What's up with that?
I think it's someone else on my site that wrote the article, but yeah. So
Oh shit.
Aaron Judge has the most home runs of anyone who is not credibly suspected of using steroids. Um,
Oh really? Okay.
which you can debate, like, who knows who's using steroids, by the way. Maybe we'll find out in 20 years that Aaron Judge was using steroids too. I tend not to think so, but we don't know. But like, I mean, baseball people tend to be pretty precious about the history of the game, and it kind of makes sense, right? It's like, okay, well, these guys cheated. Aaron Judge, we think, didn't cheat. Um, I think the problem is that there's like not that clear a delineation between uh, what constitutes cheating and what doesn't, right? Players in the day used to use like amphetamines and throw spitballs, and when
Hmm.
Babe Ruth was playing, there like weren't any like black players in the game, which is a big, makes things a lot easier. I mean, so it's um I think the like smart sports fan attitude is that like you can't draw clear lines between what constitutes ethical behavior and what doesn't. So maybe therefore everything goes. I don't know. But maybe it isn't. Maybe you have to draw some arbitrary lines, and sometimes like arbitrary lines are better than no lines at all potentially, right? So yeah, a lot of like man on the street baseball fans be like, this is a legitimate home run record because everyone else cheated. Um, I would say, who cheated and who doesn't is a little bit more ambiguous than you might think.
Oh, I did not know that. I know that certain sports don't have steroid use, such as gymnastics, for some reason, and then some just have it's just like totally rampant, such as in bodybuilding, if you call it a sport. Like I know in I wonder about football or American football. Also, I would just think like if it's like optional, like everyone's doing it, is my personal guess, just because there's just so much on the line, and steroids is just such a massive edge from what I
Yeah, no,
understand.
it's again, like American football, guys use steroids, get suspended all the time, and like nobody really bats an eyelash at it. I mean, this kind of has parallels um, with like where cheating scandals in chess and poker and like fishing and everything now, right? If there are market incentives to cheat, there are people I think in any one of those domains who are like ethically against it and won't, right? But like if there is a market incentive to cheat and there's not enforcement, then like the market's pretty efficient. People will pay the price of cheating or pay the way to avoid detection or take the risk, and it's as true in baseball as any other field. But no, like
Hmm.
Barry Bonds is probably rational to like to take steroids, right?
Yeah, I mean,
um,
it can definitely be rational, and if you look at things from a very limited perspective, to cheat. Actually, there's a related topic to that I want to talk a bit about, um, because yeah, we'll get to that. We'll see if that's one that piques your interest. It's more about the whole grand theme of the signal and the noise and what it really
yeah,
means and that kind of stuff. But the cool thing about the idea of the signal and the noise in the book is that it just like there's so many parallels to it. Um, like it's not just poker. It's like literally what is the truth and what do you find it? What's all the nonsense out there? I don't really understand the jump from baseball to earthquakes and weather. It sounded like maybe you got bored and it was like, oh, let's try something a little tougher. Let's figure out weather and politics and all these like things that have tons of variance and just don't converge nearly as fast. Don't have as strong as of a feedback loop.
I mean, so part of that was like I'm talking to people in other domains that involve prediction or forecasting. So yeah, I don't know how to forecast the weather myself. I look at my apps.
No.
But the weather forecasters are pretty smart, right? They're like most like ex like Air Force people. They're very
Really?
good. Like people make fun, like not like the
I didn't expect that.
goofy TV meteorologist, right? Because the TV meteorologist is like some airhead, right? Who they hire for good looks, basically. But like the hardcore like
No.
NOAA federal government people or like AccuWeather people who like actually build their models are pretty good. In part because the models are like driven by physics, right? It's not just like, oh, let's kind of solve some regression analysis. It's like we actually like have a good model of how the atmosphere works, and we just need accurate data, and we can kind of do like differential equations. So it's pretty cool. People like now look at their weather forecast and like make plans based on it and take that for granted. Like that was not true 30 years ago. 30 years ago, the weather forecast was like not much better than like random, right? It's improved a ton, and those guys are smart, and women, I should say.